وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Before I go through the Khaterah, inshallah, it's a reminder of during these difficult times to continue to keep the brothers and sisters in Gaza and in Palestine in general, in all places where Muslims are being oppressed in the world, in your dua. It's what you start with and it's what you end with. You start with making dua for them and you end with making dua for them. And between those two things, you offer all that which you have to offer, whether it may be wealth, whether it may be moral support, whether it may be advocacy on some front, whatever it is that it was within your capacity, you offer it. Everyone's different and everyone has a different reach and not everyone is the same in terms of what they are capable of. So evaluate and assess what you can do and make sure that you're doing it to the best of your ability and with all your capacity, inshallah. And consider this place, the masjid here, a place where you can come, and if you're feeling, this is obviously a very difficult time, and if you're keeping up with what's going on and you're listening, it's obviously going to affect you heavily one way or the other. So this is a place where you can come and you find, inshallah, those who can comfort you and console you as we go through these difficult times. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant them salvation and to grant them protection. Allahumma ameen. And hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, this is the beginning of something khair, even though it's hard to see that in the midst of the storm. That's for sure. And obviously, advocacy on multiple levels is occurring within the community, so it's important to get involved, whether it's petitions, whether it's sending letters to your MP, or those whom whether we like it or not, we're a part of voting them in, and they will be asking for our support very soon and for our voting power. And I think we should be a little bit more stingy with that and a little bit more clear in terms of what we expect in return, which is nothing but basic human decency and some degree of integrity and a little bit of justice, which I know is hard for politicians to do, but we can try at least and ask. يروي الإمام أحمد في مسنده بسند صحيح عن عبدالله بن عمرو بن العاص رضي الله عنهما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. The hadith tonight in the collection of Imam Ahmad with the authentic chain narration narrated to us by Abdullah ibn Amr. The theme is still the hadith that have within it laysa minna. It's not within our core, it's not amongst us, or it's not in keeping with our core values, or it's not whom we are or whom we are not. And this phrase he used, alayhi salatu 12 times in the hadith, 10 times were authentic, 2 that have some question to them, so I leave those 2 out. And I'm towards the end of narrating these hadith. I want to finish this series just so that it's a full group. And the hadith tonight is important, and what he says, alayhi salatu wasalam, this hadith, قال ليس منا من تشبه بالرجال من النساء ولا من تشبه بالنساء من الرجال. It's not in keeping with our core values for men to behave like women or for women to behave like men. Now this is an important hadith, especially in the context of time where we're living, because some people don't understand or don't know how to understand it or how to interpret it. And this hadith, it's not, see, the way you think about it, what our minds go to are the wrong things. If you think about, we start mixing up what this hadith is talking about. The hadith is not talking about men being compassionate and seeing compassion as something that only women do, or somehow it's some form of weakness, or looking at weakness as being what women are, because that's incorrect. The compassion is something that both men and women are supposed to practice at all times. So it's not compassionate. It's not an issue of being agreeable and weak, because women, that's not what they are. That's not how they're seen in Islam. So that's not what the hadith is saying not to be, nor the opposite. Nor is the opposite if a woman is strong, is opinionated, or is strong-willed, and that she shouldn't be that because that's only for men, because that's not only for men either. This is not what it's talking about. This is not what it's actually talking about, the problems that we have today, where we mix up the roles and we refuse to differentiate in terms of who is doing what within the relationships, or within raising children, or within what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has specified us to be able to do. And we decide that we're going to change the norm of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. This is what this hadith is pointing out. It's not pointing out personality traits where people are different. And in no way are women seen as weak, nor do we encourage them to be so. And nor is strength and standfastness only for men, and no one else, and compassion is not something that only women have, and men should continue to be rigid and difficult. This is untrue. That's not how he was, at least, alayhi salatu wasalam. Look at his life. He wasn't like that. He was extremely compassionate. He was actually very kind and very tender and very easygoing. And he was very agreeable with people around him. He was the easiest person around. He complained about nothing. He asked almost for nothing. He never actually pointed out anything in his home that he needed to happen on a daily basis from anybody. So this is not what he's talking about in this hadith. He's pointing out specific issues regarding gender behaviors and gender specificities in terms of the roles that we carry as father and mothers, as husbands and wives, as men and women. the biological differences that exist and respecting what that looks like and how we're supposed to go by it. And that's not difficult for anyone who has a basic understanding of how the world works. It's really weird that I actually have to sit anywhere and talk about something that is so simple and so basic and so basic. The Prophet ﷺ has this hadith at a time where I can't really imagine that a lot of this was happening to begin with. If you look at Imam ﷺ's time, how much of this was occurring? Very little, very little. This wasn't really. When we talk about masculinity and femininity and understanding what they are, these definitions are important. And I've had these discussions with people that I respect and people that are intelligent. I've found that we barely have, outside of Islam even a clear definition for either terms. Like, people don't seem to know what these mean. It's something that they come up with and they try to force upon others. So I think it's worth our time to actually have these discussions and make sure you understand Islamically what is masculinity and what is femininity. Is masculinity control? Is masculinity being a tyrant and being someone who, or is that what it is? Or is it protection? Is it provision? And what is femininity? What does that mean? What does it look like? And what are we looking for here? What is exactly the Prophet ﷺ trying to make sure that we don't lose? Because if a man loses his masculinity and a woman loses her femininity, then what's really left of society? And how are we going to function? How are we going to have children? How are we going to raise them properly? How is anything going to work? This is what this hadith is teaching. And I find that it was said 1,400 years ago. We didn't take the time, I think, to talk about it properly. And now we're stuck. And now we're stuck in a position where others are actually questioning the basics and we don't have it ready for a response. So this is something, in my opinion, that we should talk about a little bit more and educate ourselves on a little bit more. Inshallah, we're trying to do that. I try to do that throughout the summer khutbahs. I don't think I really succeeded much, but we're going to try again, inshallah, in the future after I give myself a break and we'll go back to it, inshallah. يروي الإمام أحمد في مسنده بسند صحيح عن عبد الله بن عمرو بن العاص رضي الله عنهما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم ليس منا من تشبه بالرجال من النساء ولا بالنساء من الرجال صدق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم جزاكم الله خير بارك الله فيكم. Please pray your sunnah swiftly and then allow me to start my usul fiqh lesson. You're welcome to attend it if you like, but otherwise